Hello, I'm Debbie Bell-Hosking for FinextraTV at the Temenos Community Forum 2026 in Copenhagen. And I'm joined by Santhosh Rao, who is the Managing Director, MIA, Temenos, and also Mitchell Elegbe, who is the Group CEO, Interswitch. And we're going to be talking about growing trends in the Africa market. So welcome to you both.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's lovely to have you here in the studio, and I'm really excited to be having an Africa conversation. So Mitchell, if I go to you first, if I may. Digital payments, we are seeing a lot of growth and innovation in this area, particularly in Africa. Can you tell us why you think this is happening? What's driving this trend?
Thank you, Debbie. First, I think in the last few years, we've seen mobile take hold in Africa. Penetration has been fantastic. When you layer on top of that the fact that Africa has a very youthful population that have adopted mobile as a way of communication, that has gone into financial services also. We now have a situation where the mobile phone is not only your bank branch, it's also how you store money, your wallet, is the way you consume commerce. When you put all of this together, what you find is that there's been a lot of adoption of financial services on the back of the mobile technology. In addition to that, there's been a lot of push in financial inclusion. As you well know, a lot of people in Africa are financially excluded, and the mobile telephony has given that opportunity for them to get involved in terms of financial transactions and to improve their lifestyle. What that has done in general is that a lot of the banks now have a very cheap and affordable channel to engage millions, hundreds of millions of consumers that traditionally they couldn't engage before now. All of that is part of what is fueling the growth that we see on the continent.
And we're hearing, Santhosh, we're hearing from Mitchell about the sort of, I suppose, the power of the mobile phone in this aspect, and the momentum there. But of course, there are many areas in Africa where there is a lack of financial inclusion. What do you think that banks and microfinance institutions can do to address this?
No, absolutely. I think, just extending what Mitchell said in terms of the penetration of mobile phones and networks across the continent, there are a few things that are readily available as levers that can move the needle when it comes to banks and microfinance institutions. I'll just focus on a few areas. One of it could be data-driven inclusion, like electronic KYCs, and then onboarding, in a much different way than what they traditionally do. And then going into areas like product diversifications as well, right? Today, if you look at microfinance and banks, they're just looking at lending, right? That kind of products around credit. So what they could do is look at savings, look at areas like insurance, look at areas like, need-based, financing. Those are areas that they could clearly look at. And also when it comes to areas like, say, for example, open banking. They could look at the fintech infrastructure, look at the telco infrastructure to expand their reach, expand their rails through which they can give them payment services, expand their reach through mobile networks, and things like that. And another area where I've seen banks and financial institutions probably focus less is on the value chain financing side. Say, for example, you're going into agricultural systems. So these are seasonal. So when do you need money? Is that available at that point in time? You start focusing on areas like that, it becomes a lot more avenues for you to explore as banks and financial institutions.
And I feel like you want to respond to that.
No, I think it's spot on. I was just thinking about agriculture when you mentioned it, but that is something for another day.
Yeah, another topic that would be exciting to delve into. So let's go back, Santhosh. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for growth for financial institutions in Africa?
I think, the whole continent today is a land of opportunities, okay? Because right from north to the south, if you look at it, the population there is pretty young. and the penetration of mobile networks across the continent has already been recognized. Okay, so if you look at it, they're no longer brick and mortar banks, that are setting up branches and stuff like that. So the infrastructure is already available. And specifically, if you look at West Africa, you look at East Africa, it's a much younger population. There's a lot of depth, a lot of banking services available. It's about how do you take it forward through the length and breadth. And that's where for us as Temenos, we always look at leveraging companies that bring that local knowledge and local presence and experience. So we went to Interswitch and said, how could we leverage on our strengths here as a big provider in the area of core banking and digital banking and, crime and compliance and stuff like that. So when we looked at Interswitch, we said there was a direct synergy. And we said we'll leverage what Interswitch has in terms of their infra.
Mm. And where are you seeing the opportunities, particularly with this partnership and also in Africa as a whole for other financial institutions?
Okay, so traditionally, Interswitch has focused on retail payments, and in trying to grow that, we have seen a lot of restrictions in the back office side of things. I just spoke to you earlier about financial inclusion. It has been an area where a lot of governments and central banks in Africa have been pushing, but there are some constraints to having world-class technology to apply in that area, constraints around affordability, okay? And part of what we have been thinking of as Interswitch is how do we democratize good tech, solid core banking services into these areas that traditionally couldn't afford it. And so the partnership with Temenos allows us to do that very, very well. So for us, apart from focusing on the tier 1 and tier 2 banks that are traditionally drivers of growth in the economy, we feel that there are hundreds of microfinance institutions that need to have access to solid technology also that they can use to service their customers. And this partnership with Temenos actually allows us to have that access to that kind of technology and to use our own local presence and understanding of the market to further drive growth in those particular areas.
And Mitchell, there's a phrase you said that's sticking with me, is how do we democratize good tech? And I just want to say thank you to you both for joining us here and having this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.